So here we have some film grain. We're zoomed way in on an image, and you see the grain dancing by. We're looking at the blue channel where there's most of the grain. And you see it just dancing by. It's really ugly. And, you know, it's hiding all the details in the image. It's very hard to see what's in there. So now people talk about preserving film grain. But what film grain? This film grain that we're looking at, even though this is typical of print stock, this is not what was on the camera negative. You know, grain gets added first at the inner positive, and then on the inner negative, and then it gets added again on the print stock. And different stocks have different levels of grain, and so none of it is really indicative of what's intended on the negative, and it hides all this detail. So what my tool does, it's a little tool called Beelzebub, is Beelzebub goes in and looks at all of this information and says, well, what if for each one of these pixels, what if we took the very best piece of information that we could find? And in doing so, it can actually recover all this data, all that data that is in there. And you see just how many more details and that we recover in shades. And the image looks a little soft, but that's because we're zoomed in about 400% on this piece of image. We're way past the image's resolution. But even so, you know, the net effect of this is that, of course, it's a lot sharper, and there's going to be greater color fidelity and all that sort of thing. And you see, there's still grain in here. There's still grain, but you know, safer to say that it's negative grain rather than this, we'll say, print grain. And so again, this is not an excessive amount of grain we're looking at here. It's just not. This is fairly typical for print stock, and you know, and you don't want to use degraining algorithms per se, generally speaking, because they soften the image and they hide details. That's not what we want. We don't want to lose information just to smooth things out. We want to gain information. So very, very useful tool. It needs to be guided. It works very, very well on things that are stationary. When stuff's moving, I have to teach it about what's moving, so that it can behave properly. But that's all right by me. I think in the end the results are worth it when we're talking about going from this level of information to, you know, to this far more satisfying and sharper and more detailed final image. So there you go. Devil's in the details.